Now at 10, this is Fox 61, Connecticut's news station.
Good evening, I'm Stephen Reels, and thanks for joining us here at the Fox 61 News at 10. Let's get a quick check on the forecast tonight with meteorologist Nick Morganelli. Nick, people are starting to put those New Year's plans together. What can they start planning for?
Yeah, Stefan, you know, we're going to deal with some rain tomorrow morning. We're also going to deal with some rain on New Year's Eve. We're going to show you that forecast coming up in this half hour. Right now, we still have some fog. The visibility was down to a quarter to a half a mile around Windsor Locks. It's at a mile now, so the fog is starting to lift off to the north. There hasn't been much in the way of fogginess for southern Connecticut this evening, but certainly it is mild. Temperatures are in the 50s everywhere, with the exception of Windsor Locks at 38. So you can see that warm air is trying to push out the cold, and that's why we have the fog. There's a few scattered patches of drizzle and showers, but the rain is off to the west, and this is all coming in during the overnight hours and during tomorrow morning. Look at 4 a.m., a band of heavy rain coming in, 6 o'clock for your morning commute, and then by 8 o'clock it starts to shift eastward over Rhode Island, and it's out of here, and we get some partial clearing later in the morning, and it's a clear afternoon. So for tonight, temperatures are mild in the 50s, and for tomorrow, we've got the clearing sky and the temperatures drop off later in the day. More on the 7-day forecast coming up.
Jimmy Carter, the 39th president of the United States, died at the age of 100 today. He had spent almost 2 years in hospice care at his home in Plains, Georgia. He was the country's longest-lived president, and although Carter spent almost all of his century of life in either Georgia or Washington, D.C., he also devoted decades of his life to the U.S. Navy and to his former hometown of New London, Connecticut, and the sub-base in Groton. Fox 61's Brent Hardin reports.
James Earl Carter graduated from Annapolis with distinction on June 5, 1946. He was 22. On that day, 78 years ago, his then-girlfriend Eleanor Rosalind Smith on the left and his mother Lillian on the right penned his ensign labels to his Navy uniform. 1 month later, Jimmy wed Rosalind in their hometown of Plains, Georgia, and his new bride followed the newly minted ensign as he sailed all over the world. She had her hands full raising their 3 sons, Jack, born the next year in Virginia, their second son, Chip, born in Hawaii in 1950, and their third son, Jeff, born in 1952 in Groton. And that's where Midshipman Carter served on the submarine force, not far from Electric Boat, which FDR himself had toured some years earlier. The couple settled in New London, directly across the Thames River. Carter graduated from the sub-training program in December of 1948 and served on submarines fueled by diesel fuel as they patrolled the Pacific Ocean. Midshipman Carter rose in the ranks to serve as executive officer, engineering officer, and electronics repair officer. In 1949, Carter was promoted to lieutenant and served aboard the USS Pomfret. Rosalind herself snapped this photograph. The Carters returned to New London after he was selected for an elite program in Groton, working to design and develop atomic submarines, even leading a team to fix a broken nuclear reactor. It's been said New London was where Rosalind was the happiest. Carter was all set to serve as the engineering officer aboard the USS Seawolf, the nation's second atomic-powered sub, which was under construction just downriver at Electric Boat. But when his father died in July of 1953, Carter resigned his commission and returned home to Plains. He and Rosalind managed the family's farm supply business, which he expanded significantly. The next part of Carter's story is well known, becoming governor and running for president, speaking at Yale in March of 1975, campaigning outside Hartford City Hall in February of 1976, returning to Hartford in April for the state's first ever presidential primary, and twice more in October to campaign alongside Governor Ella Grasso, former Secretary of the State Gloria Schaefer, and State Treasurer Henry Parker, and returning to Groton for a visit to the General Dynamics shipyard. In January of 1977, the Carters moved into the White House with their then 9-year-old daughter, Amy. But Carter's connection to Connecticut held strong throughout his presidency. He returned to the Constitution State to campaign for the re-election of Grasso and her lieutenant governor, future Governor William O'Neill. He stood alongside Grasso and former governor turned U.S. Senator Abraham Ribicoff after signing bills providing $1 billion to help the poor pay their fuel bills, and establishing a Department of Education in 1979. The same year, he brought together Egypt's president and Israel's prime minister for their historic Middle East peace treaty, for which he won the Nobel Peace Prize. 5 years later, now private citizens, the Carters returned to Hartford for a celebration, the launch of WTIC-TV, now known as Fox 61. They were guests of honor at the Black Tie Gala celebrating the night our TV station signed on the air September 17th, 1984. Carter joined Arnold Chase, who spearheaded the building of the station, along with Governor Bill O'Neill, actor Eddie Albert of TV's Green Acres, and other luminaries. Carter returned to Connecticut several times to witness the construction and commissioning of the submarine named in his honor. The USS Jimmy Carter started construction in 1996 and was christened in 2004, the last of the Seawolf-class submarines named after the nuclear sub he served on decades earlier. And perhaps, if not for Carter's public support for the New London submarine base, it might not be what it is today. He joined those arguing to retain the base, charting how the closure would impact the entire state of Connecticut through the loss of businesses and jobs. Former U.S. Senator Chris Dodd said he believes a passionate letter Carter wrote to the commission on August 15th of 2005 saved the day and convinced officials to keep the base open. His other cause since leaving the White House, Habitat for Humanity, building more than 4,300 homes alongside his beloved. Both Rosalind and Jimmy entered hospice in 2023. She died in November at the age of 96 after 77 years of marriage, the longest marriage of any presidential couple in American history. This was the final time former President Carter was seen in public at her funeral. This year, Carter became the first former president ever to see an official White House Christmas tree ornament honoring his legacy as the 39th President of the United States. It's in the shape of an anchor reflecting Carter's service in the U.S. Navy, with doves symbolizing Carter's Nobel Prize-winning efforts at peacemaking.
That was Fox 61's Brent Harden. And reaction to the news of President Carter's passing are pouring in, starting off with Governor Ned Lamont releasing a statement today and saying, part in quote, President Carter's style of leadership set an example that ought to be emulated by public officials nationwide, most notably his self-effacing and kind disposition. He carried himself with grace and integrity, treated others with dignity and respect. Senator Chris Murphy also released a statement saying, quote, few people have modeled what it means to live a life dedicated to the service of others more than President Jimmy Carter. He led with compassion, humility, and moral clarity even when it came at a political cost. And United States Representative John Larson put out a statement saying Jimmy Carter demonstrated how to be a role model and make a difference in the world, even when you leave elective office. Larson went on to say he will be deeply missed by so many people he touched around the world. Nationally, President Joe Biden also reacted to the passing of Jimmy Carter, saying with his compassion and moral clarity, he worked to eradicate disease, forge peace, advance civil rights and human rights. Biden went on to say Carter promoted free and fair elections, housed the homelessness, and always advocated for the least among us. And President-elect Donald Trump posted to his Truth Social website saying he was truly a good man and, of course, will be greatly missed. He was also very consequential, far more than most presidents after he left the Oval Office. Warmest condolences from Melania and I to his wonderful family. And starting immediately, Governor Ned Lamont has ordered flags to be flown at half-staff across the state. This will also be happening across the country in honor of Carter's life and legacy. This will go on until January 28th, 30 days after Carter passed away. Investigators are digging into South Korea's deadliest plane crash after 179 people died when a Boeing jet crashed. Lucas Tomlinson has the latest.
Investigators Sunday began assessing the wreckage of South Korea's deadliest plane crash after a Jeju airliner skidded off the runway, slamming into a concrete barrier, killing 179 people on board. Just 2 crew members survived. Officials investigating the crash say air traffic controllers warned about a bird strike risk minutes before the crash.
A lot of aviation experts are scratching their heads on this one. There is video which seems to indicate they lost their right engine.
It just doesn't explain why the airplane is coming in so hot and with the landing gear in the up position.
The aircraft was a 15-year-old Boeing 737 jet operated by budget Irish airline Ryanair before it was delivered to Jeju Air in 2017. In the U.S., where Boeings are manufactured, the incident is stirring new questions after Boeing planes have made headlines around the world in recent years after a series of quality control incidents. Most notably, the mid-air blowout of a door plug on an Alaskan Airlines flight last January. Aviation experts assessing this latest crash say it appears there was a glitch with the landing gear.
Number one, the gear is not extended. The flaps are not extended, which would indicate that there was a major hydraulic failure of some kind there.
In a statement, Boeing offered support to Jeju Air, adding, quote, "We extend our deepest condolences to the families who lost loved ones, and our thoughts remain with the passengers and crew." In a statement, President Biden offered condolences, saying the U.S. and South Korea share deep bonds of friendship and offered to assist in any way.
Bringing a little light to the darkness, that's the message the Jewish community shared for this year's Hanukkah. And for the fifth night of this religious holiday, this dichotomy, this battle of opposites was shown in West Hartford earlier today.
Welcome to Fire on Ice!
Whether it's the crowd, the food, or the sound of fun, it's easy to tell when the Shabbat House of Greater Hartford's Hanukkah Festival is back in West Hartford.
Mega celebration in the Greater Hartford area, really largest in the state.
And a moment of Jewish pride and solidarity, which culminates with the lighting of this 8-foot ice menorah. It celebrates the miracles of the Jewish faith. Public menorahs like this have popped up since the 70s, but the one in West Hartford found its home more than 15 years ago.
2008, I believe, we started identifying that Blueback Square would be the great place, and it grew, and every year we added to it. It became very popular, and people love to come out, stand together, celebrate, and be proud, and be able to share the message of Hanukkah.
A message of light, successful triumph over darkness, of being able to celebrate proudly and support one another with the miracles we create ourselves.
The message of Hanukkah is one little action, one good deed. Just do it. Do one extra good thing, and in your area of influence, and you will see how little action can make a big difference.
And this year, the first night of Hanukkah actually coincided with Christmas Day. The 8th and final night will be on January 2nd.